Hopefully this works. Okay. Oof. 1 second. I don't know exactly what I have planned for this. I've had a story in my mind for like a couple years now, and it's like the same story. Changed like slightly over the years. But I got it when I was in like sophomore year of high school, so about 3 years ago. Freshman, sophomore ish. Yeah. And I wrote it down a couple of times, but I always lose the notes. So yeah, I can try to put the actual stuff down later. Right now, I'm just gonna put this on as like a video. See if if it sounds any good. Okay, I've had this story idea. It's about oh yeah, the character's name was Furious Cheyenne. The world that she lives in, I can't remember the name of the world. Hold on. I can pretty much describe it though. It's a region that is ran by King Rastov, who has banned every form of magic, whether it be healing or damage or any sort of magic, just completely banned. He has outlawed elves, fairy, dragonkin, stuff, dwarves from his land, unless they remotely look like human. If they could pass as a human, then they're fine. Well, Furious, I'll get back to the main character, but I'll do some backstory first. Throughout the years, magic has been banned, and the king has just cracked down. Every time that magic is learned, it kept going. And so, this king, who, people claim that he's at least half-elf because he's lived so long. He has lived generations, and he doesn't seem to age. The way that he came into power is he overtook the original king, the one that actually founded the country, and region of the land that she's in, which is a mountainous land. I mean, if I had to compare it to something, I would in fact probably compare it to Skyrim, just because that's one of my favorite games. But like plains, it has desert, a bunch of underground caves, but most importantly, the mountains. And there's a whole entire thing that there's parts of the mountains that are near the water. So we would go, so after a while, King Rastov, after being betrayed by a singular mage who he had thought to be his wife for years, turns out his wife was a shapeshifter. So the woman that he had conquered the nation with is now on her deathbed. And she looks up to him and she says, "Rastov, I have something to tell you." And he's, "My dear, what is it? I know since neither of us are being honest and you've revealed your secret to me, why don't I reveal mine to you?" And as her for few last dying breaths, she turns into an orc. So at that point, King Rastov, he's like, "No, if mages have this much power, she was the most beautiful woman in the world." And it turns out she was just a orc. And, well, you see, he had always been a huge racist. That's to say, a little bit. But yeah, he had been a racist. And so he decides that he's going to make a royal decree. No more races besides human are allowed. Or unless they are slaves. And no more magic whatsoever. He declares that if the human population is to survive, they cannot rely on magic. Well, over the years, theories formed that he's immortal because he doesn't seem to have aged. Everyone thinks that he's using his own type of magic and he's immortal. Some even say that he, because of how long it's been since his original battle and reasons for him to have changed from it, changed to go into so much war with the magic. Some even believe that he's some sort of deity. And but people have also denied that since he has, banned deity worship of any kind in his kingdom. Over the years, his kingdom grows. His farms succeed. Everything in his kingdom is on a diplomatic and political and regional scale. It's going great. However, since this is a fantasy world, I'm also thinking, just as a note, the gods are real in this world, okay? And, as he is going over, and he decides that he is going to take over a certain woodland area, and he completely refuses to have anyone in his kingdom believe in any sort of deity. So when he is told that the villagers refuse to cut down the woods for him and thin them out so that way him and his men can pass through and take observance to look through it, pretty much. For them not to, they refuse to do that because people claim that is the hunting grounds of the owl goddess of wisdom, who is an elf. She's a goddess of wisdom, meaning she does magic. Rastov hates the idea entirely, and instead of having his men cut it down and just executing the villagers that defied him as a king in the kingdom eras, I don't know exactly what year I would base this in if I was to. I don't think I'm going to use human time just to be safe. But, instead of that, he burns the entire woods to the ground until one singular tree is standing. The tallest tree in it. In which he goes over to the tree and he says, "If your owl goddess is here, she shall strike me down." And something does fall out of the tree, an elf. In which elves are already banned. Worship to any deity makes them is outlawed as well. So this elf, she doesn't look like much when she falls down, and she goes and he casts her aside, and he starts to try to hit this tree, but instead of the tree seeming to be hurt, the elf woman seems to hurt anytime he hits the tree. He throws a torch at it. She screams in pain and gets burn marks. So he walks over and he says, "Are you practicing magic to protect the tree?" And she says, "No, my life force is the tree. I am the owl goddess." In which she says, "Blasphemy. You're not even an owl." She says, "Rastov, you know me. We're friends." In which this, later on in history, this is only conspiracy, because he turns and, according to the history books that I'm going to have in it, he wipes out the entirety of his squad. And then goes and writes in the history books that she was actually really powerful and wiped them out, and he was lucky to survive without a scratch. When in reality, he wiped them out to keep them from discovering his secret, in which his wife had died and had said that she didn't reveal his, and that she respected his, so she had to respect hers, in which started this whole ordeal in the first place. So, a couple years later, speculation is going to its highest, people are outright refusing to do the king's deeds. They're refusing to do stuff. Each time something disastrous would happen. Well, in a village, it's not a very big one, but one of the chiefs of a barbaric tribe. I say barbaric as in the class in RPGs more than, barbaric, ooh, bloodlust, rah 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 sort of guy. And the chief of this place says, "No, we shall no longer follow Rastov. I've found his secret." He sends his youngest daughter out. She has what he would like to say a gift. Comparatively to the rest of the people, she is very intelligent. She's great with a blade, but she was born in a barbaric society. So she learns how to use barbaric moves and such. In which he wishes that he could teach her something else, but he knows nothing else. He refuses to have her go off to some foreign place, a different city, in order to train and be brainwashed by Rastov. Because he knows Rastov's secret by now. I don't know if you guys have probably guessed it, but it will be a reveal sort of thing that I'll do later when I'm discussing this. The chief of the barbarians, Chief Shayan, he goes and he confronts the king while he's walking up on the city. The king, Rastov, he goes, "Who dares challenge me?" And Chief Shayan says, "I do, for your ways are wrong and you have killed many. No one shall live in fear because of what they believe or who they are." In which the king says, "Is that true now?" And he says, "Yes. You're a hypocrite after all, Rastov. I know your secret." And Rastov, without a second thought, smites him. And by that I mean, hits him down. Because it could be confusing with, cleric smite in RPGs. That's just why I'm clarifying. And so he goes and he starts to have his man ransack the village. And then a knight, I haven't decided on his name yet. He goes over and he sees someone running towards the hills. The hills that he has heard are, the hills are the resting place of the god of deceit and bargains. This god has in their mythology before the king, and what remains of that mythology, contributed by the other societies not under Rastov's rule, it says that he can grant any power but will always be at a price. So he sees one young girl running to those hills, in which he stops her and he's like, "Hey, run. I don't want to kill a girl. I don't want to kill a young girl. I don't think this is right. I hope you get to where you're needed." And with the hat, she escapes. The knight, his deeds are punished, but because it's a young girl, King Rastov thinks nothing of it, and lets him go with pretty much a slap on the hand and being banned from his signature guard. So it is shown, at least in my mind, he's not heartless at this point. We do know that, not Rastov, he's seriously committing genocide to any magic users, anyone who opposes him, and people who can't control what they are, like elves and dwarves. And we'll completely wreck things. No, the knight. The knight that was right under him, it seemed to have a heart. Well, months pass, if not a couple years, I haven't decided yet, where Fira Shayan learns that her father's dead. He was killed. She didn't see him die. And From also what she has heard, no one in her village survived, in which her father's last words were to go to the mountains and find him. Well, when she was coping with his death, she took up swimming. She'd always been great in the water, so she had been swimming, and she would dive off of the cliffs into the water, and she just found a solace. I think that's the word for it, where it's like calm, tranquility in water. So, when she does finally meet the God of Bargains, of course, in order to make her what the king despises the most, he needs to take what she loves the most. So, in order to gain magic power that she can train, he makes it so that way she can never touch water. She can touch substances that have water, but water itself, the stuff that made her find tranquility, never again. No swimming, no rain, no puddles even. She could still drink water out of a glass and stuff. He is able to make it so that way that certain things don't affect it. But he says, if you were to ever touch water, you will be sent. He never doesn't get a chance to specify because she is on the outskirts of the actual kingdom, so she's actually still in the kingdom, but it's more lawless because it's not near the center. So, well, of course, that's where people who are trying to hide would be, and also where the people who commit the most crime. So, a group of bandits. I want to say they're orcs. I don't know what race I'll have them be. They are heard from below, in which she is given. I really do want to keep the three major ones, which would be Airblade, Shadow Step, and Fire. Because I've actually done a little bit of research when making the name for this character, Faria Shan. It means fiery blossom, and I think it was Japanese. I can't remember. I do know that when he did what does this name mean, it means fiery blossom. Which is why I came up with that background for her. Yeah, she does rage, but she's also the I don't know exactly the word for it, but she's the best at what she for her age, she was the best in her village. Of course, she was nowhere near ready to fight. Hate actual groups of opponents, so that's why she's been up in the mountains training instead of going straight to her objective, just in case something happened. So yeah. So the fire one, it could be shot out as like a burst of fire, or it could be used to cover over weapons. Windblade, it doesn't have to be a blade per se. It's called Windblade in what I'm gonna call it. It's still called Windblade, but what it is technically is just revolving wind. So it could be used for many different things. But the most important one, the one that I am most proud of thinking of, I don't know where I get this from. It's Shadow Step, in which it's not invisibility per se, and it's not exactly a teleportation. Everything that light touches has a shadow for the most part. Not everything. Like, for example, if the sun's in the middle of the sky, the shadow will be directly down on a pole that's placed in the ground. Therefore, the shadow would be very little, but would still have a shadow. Now, that is the concept that I was looking for. Okay, something that would be used as a mode of sneaking or transport without being discovered. But I also wanted to put in something like in DC Comics, they have, I think it's a Flash villain called the Mirror Master, where he enters when he enters a mirror, it's kind of like an entirely separate dimension. I was thinking that, but with shadows. So everything moves the same. However, where there were shadows, she can pretty much use the spell to fold into a shadow, and then she can't see them, but they can't see her. Now, of course, because of stuff like actual real life physics, such as you can't destroy or create matter in the actual plane of existence, which we're going to call reality. It's still all technically reality in this case, but in the physical plane, okay, there is, for example, Taco. This is Taco. Good Taco. So there's Taco. But in the shadow plane, where Taco is, you would only see the shadow. Now, this would be an interesting thing, okay? Because you're in an entire shadow, instead of being a shadow, there's a silhouette of light. So it's a light shadow pretty much. But yeah. So I was thinking that. But what about the reverse? Well, because of all of that and blah blah blah, she still produces a shadow in the physical plane while she's in the shadow plane. So if we had Taquito here, and Taquito is in the shadow realm, okay? Taquito's shadow would still be cast upon Taco because of the light, but unless they were to notice that, hey, there's a moving shadow, they won't exactly see it. So you don't see other people while you're in the shadow plane unless they're also in the shadow plane. And yeah, there is exceptions. For example, deities, extremely powerful people will not be affected by this trick. Because I am thinking that the shadow plane is kind of like powerful creatures, for example, deities, if they needed to focus on something. Because in this, they're not going to be able to be in multiple places, such as Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series, where the Greek gods could technically be in multiple places. I'm not thinking like that. But multiple places, no. However, storing their power in multiple planes of existence, which are technically multiple places, but they all have the same personality, the same attributes. It's just different planes of existence, and their consciousness is what flips, and they can draw power from the alternate planes to reality, the reality plane, at any time. They need, however, if they go into a certain amount of power, then people around them start to dissolve or something. And considering deities, they like I said, the ideas I have, a lot of them dip back into other works of fiction, but kind of like with Greek gods, which I don't know if it was Rick Riordan who first used this idea, but where like the amount of people who like believe in the god, then that's how powerful the god. I'm more thinking the more that they know of the person, that, or slightly of what the god is, or well, deity I should use, because some people might be offended by me using the word god. So the deity, for example, Gobo, who would be the bargainer and tricks deity, would in fact he would have a pretty decent amount of followers in order to grant power, but he doesn't have to be a deity. They don't have to see him as a deity for him to be powerful. So, for example, if I'll use Taquito and Taco Grande as an example again. If Taco was believed in by Taquito, okay, but Taquito does not know that Taco is some sort of like eldritch abomination. Let's go. Taco would still be powerful, even if the belief that Taquito has, is different than, oh my gosh, I need to pray to this divine. Even if it's like, hey, this guy exists, let's give him like $5 because he needs some on his gas. Or even, hey, this guy exists, I hate him, or I feel neutral about him, but he exists, I know he's there. Even that would be more powerful. And the entire point of like temples in this universe would just be them trying to be more powerful, to spread their influence. Because even if they're hated, they still, if someone at least acknowledges them as something, then they have power. Yeah. Anyway, she goes, and while the main character is still learning how to use her stuff, months go by, and she's doing stuff in order to find a way, because the King Rastov, he travels a lot in this universe, because he isn't one of the kings that will just go and be like, hey, I'm your leader, go do this for me. He's more of a, okay, you owe me money, Taquito, now give it up, mate, or else I'll burn your village. Yeah, your village, mate. And so, yeah, that's like an entire thing in this series, by the way. Not series, this idea that I have. Is where he actually will go around and do stuff. A little bit of a hint on what he does. Why he does this has already been given out, in case you don't know yet, or you're trying to figure it out by the time I say it. Oh, jeez, this is gonna be long. But yeah, he goes, and she's trying to figure out what his schedule is gonna be, and usually she'll go to a town that really does not want to get political, so they'll be like, okay, we do what he says, but he's going here next, at least from what we understand. Then she'll also go to ones that are like, hey, we don't want to tell you, we really do support Rastov, we don't want to die. And then there's also the ones that she goes to and they're just burnt down. Well, she happens on one of those third ones where it's just completely burned down. And she's like, wait, I thought last time I was here they said they were completely loyal to Rastov. I wonder what happened. Well, then she hears a giant roar in the distance, a huge bellowing shriek. And it comes down and it's like, I will destroy this county, whatever, because this village, that's the word for it, this village, because they have stolen my possession. And, well, Furious Shane's surprised. It's a wyvern. And it's an older looking one, so it's obviously not dumb or anything, because it hasn't been killed yet off by any of Rastov's followers or anyone who hunts wyverns and dragons and the sort. So she goes and she gets ready, because how often do you get to try to fight a wyvern in a place that has very, very little amount of magical things, because the king is killing them all? Well, she gets ready to fight, and all of a sudden he just he goes and eats her. She didn't even get a chance. She doesn't want to die like this. All of a sudden, everything stops. She can move, but she can't figure out what's happening. Everything around her seems to pretty much be frozen. She can tell it's still moving. She can't tell what's going on. So she says out loud, "Who's there?" And a mysterious yet somewhat frail-looking woman who is donning a robe full of owl feathers. She's elvish, and she goes, "I can sense you have what I have." Furia, being surprised, and because of everything that's been going on, she tries to slink to the shadows just in case. However, she doesn't see anybody there. So she says, "Okay, who are you? What are you doing?" The voice replies back, "I've hid myself in the material world just in case this creature decides to spew flames or something. However, it can't affect us in the shadow plane." So she's like, "Wait, how do you know about the shadow plane?" So Furia, being confused, and because curiosity is a big thing, she goes and uses Shadow Step, and immediately knows why this person is using magic, and she knew that someone was there because she knew that it was an elvish lady. I'm still trying to work out this part when she meets her. But when she steps in the shadow thing, she sees the woman more clearly. And this woman's like, "Hey, don't be afraid." I'm still working on a name for this deity. But pretty much she's the elvish deity of trees and nature, healing, which her, like, representative animal is an owl because of her wisdom. And she says, "Hey, I can get you out of this wyvern, but I'll need something from you back. There's not much magic users left in this kingdom, and I see that you already want to do what I want as well. You see, the King Rastov, he's harmed the entire country, and I don't know why he dares to mess with mortal affairs, but I could help you if you help me take him down. Help with whatever you can. You seem like you're an able fighter. You're covered in blood after all. You smell like you haven't showered in weeks. But you help me, I help you. Understood?" Furia Cheyenne, having dealt with a deity before, is like, "Okay, is there a catch of some sort?" And the elvish owl deity says, "No. I've told you plainly what you will need to hear for now. And depending on how you plan to help me, and if I agree to that plan or not, would depend on what else you need to know. So when it comes to it, I will let you know. But it won't be one of those things that it is just one and done. You see, you'll have to help me for a little bit longer than just once. And your other option is, you're in a wyvern, so you can take a guess at it." So Furious, she then goes and is like, "Okay, I'll accept the terms in which..." The elvish deity snaps her fingers, and a huge sword, boo, right through the, chopping the head and the neck off of the wyvern. Time resumes, and they plummet to the ground, and they're fine. Fury doesn't know how they hit the ground, and they're fine, but she does know that they are. Now, of course, I do, a little bit of a note, I do want to make it so that way it's not just instantaneous, which I am thinking of, like, using multiple air blades, wind blades, whatever, and then setting them on fire in order to create an updraft big enough to stop her from falling face first in the ground. I still haven't decided on that would be cool or not, and where she would have learned that technique, stuff like that. Or if it would just be because it is known that she is pretty smart, and because she's in the same area as the deity of wisdom, whether she'd know that herself or bunch of stuff. Or if it would just, be something that happened and she just poofed on the ground, stuff like that. In which, at first, she recognizes the man a little bit. The man slashed down the dragon with his huge blade. It's not. If I were to describe it, it's made of dark steel, is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking kind of like the Breaker Sword, but it also has, jagged stuff, and it's not as big. It still needs to be functional. But yeah. In case anyone who watches this has seen or read Naruto, the guy with the big sword that he holds in like a bandage, and when he takes it out, it's like that huge thing. I'm thinking that, but smaller. So that way it's still wieldy, but it still looks like a two-handed weapon. And this guy is going to be carrying it in one hand. She recognizes him. She doesn't know from where just yet. And so Fear Cheyenne says, okay, what can I do in order to help? And the deity says, what are you good at? And Fear Cheyenne says, my entire life I've fought. I grew up in a community of barbarians who, that's the entire lifestyle, is to fight. And she knows some magic. She'd like to train that, and if she can help in any way. But she wants to be part of the squad that actually goes to take down Rastov. In which the deity looks at her and says, we don't have enough people like that, sure. We have a bunch of farmers, we have a bunch of mages, we have a bunch of people who do this sort of stuff. We don't have enough people who will be able to reliably, in that time, just fight when they need to. Also, as like a note, I genuinely like talk with my hands a bunch. That's why I do like stuff with taco and taquito, taco grande, taquito, taco grande. But I also phone in my hand, and I don't want it to be all shaky. So it is a little bit, just because habit. But yeah, not a great phone quality, and movement wouldn't help. But yeah. So I'm thinking stuff like that. And that's pretty much the end of what I have so far. If you know me, you can just text me what you think would be a cool thing. Otherwise, if you don't actually know me, but you still have a recommendation or have something that sounds cool or a question that I might know the answer to, heck, even if I don't, I could probably bullcrap something up. Just leave it in the comments, I guess. I don't care generally. If you have something like, oh, that doesn't make sense, it's still a work in progress. Just be cool about it.